Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Lou,
How are you?
pretty swell. You look very serious in your demeanor there, right? Yeah. Oh, you just spoiled it.
Starting to look more and more like you every day. That's all I can say.
Oh man, that would be bad.
I remember your old picture with the long hair when you were a hippie.
I still have that on Facebook. You know, I'm sure nobody actually thinks it's my son or anything like that.
Oh, God. I remember when we all had hair like that. Seems like only yesterday.
Yes, I remember having hair.
Hey, Carrie, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Didn't get back to my office or any place for this meeting, so I'm just working off my laptops. I need to see if I can find what we need for the meeting here.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm all right. How are y'all?
Good.
Good.
We're good.
How are you, Jarrell?
I'm good. I'm probably like Carrie. I'm actually at my daughter's soccer practice.
Oh, really?
Some of the best times in Malibu are at that soccer practice.
Oh, you know it.
You're multitasking. You're going to catch it later, by the way.
Oh, yes.
Hey, Steve.
Mr. Massetti? How many RSVPs do we have?
Good question.
Positive RSVPs.
Okay, Hans accepted. Lou accepted. Paul accepted. Craig Foster accepted. Jarrell accepted. We did not get a response from Melissa. And we're missing Sonia. She's off, right?
No, it was Frankie Palmer that.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Now, I'm sorry. Yes, you're completely right.
All right, so we have to figure out, whatever process you guys have to go through. I know that the board has to advertise it or something. We'd like you to set that in motion if you could.
Yeah.
To get us our seventh person.
I can reach out to Sarah because I think we do that through her, right?
Yeah, and basically, having 6 people is not ideal, obviously.
You suggesting we're likely to deadlock?
No, I'm suggesting we need one more person for quorum.
Yes. I see somebody with no picture.
That's Kathy. She's our
Kathy
admin.
from our office.
Okay.
And Melody's going to get on in a moment.
Okay, good. I have one other question before we actually get started. There is a set of bylaws on the website, but they're not for Measure M, but it's BB and ES combined. I'm assuming, and I'm careful about being that. that those bylaws apply to us as well?
They do. We should probably just update the titles on that because that would mean it wouldn't apply to SMS either, which clearly they do. But we'll update that when I think the board took an action to create the Measure M Bond Oversight Committee and then add SMS to the other one. I believe it also included that the bylaws would apply to all, but we'll fix that. But thank you for pointing it out.
Okay.
So Lou, I understand I get to see you on Saturday.
Yes, you do. I'll be there tomorrow. I'm gonna be walking around the school, actually. Is there anything special for me to see tomorrow? Or rather on Friday?
You can see most of the Cabrillo campus demolished. Not all, but you can see most.
Oh, cool. That's exciting. Well, Saturday will be an interesting day.
Yeah.
I was there at the high school for homecoming on Friday, and wow, if you take the wrong route, those stairs will kill you.
Oh, yeah.
That's our calisthenics.
Yes.
I thought you looked fitter today, Jarrell.
I know, right? It was a very long walk, but no, I'm okay though.
Good.
But there was just, it was just something about, I was like, I don't know, I can't put my finger on it. I was like, I don't know how to even address that over there on the football field, but it needs just one little tweak that we could do for either the visiting locker room or just something, and or I don't know, a vernacular or something.
Mhm.
But no, we had a good time. It was fun though.
Uh-huh.
When we used to have those parades, I had a convertible. I was able to drive up there, and kids would be sitting in the back of it, driving around it. Yeah, But getting up there was fun, at the least.
Yes.
Mr. Foster, how are you?
Great.
I'm great, thank you.
Hey there, Craig.
Hi, how are you, Jarrell?
I'm good, my man.
Wow.
So we're waiting for one more person, so we have a quorum to start.
Yeah.
Who do I need to poke? I'll text some people.
Well, Hans had accepted and I just texted him. So
And Melissa and Sonia?
they did not accept. And let me see if I don't know that I have either of their numbers.
I do.
Okay.
Sonia Pearl and Melissa Master Polito.
Yeah.
And this is the Oversight Committee, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
See, I even know where I am. Oh,
You must have a written schedule.
I have a calendar.
Yes. It helps.
But it turns out, she says yes. Sonia,
Han,
yes.
You're gonna miss all these meetings, Craig.
Yeah, that's totally right. See a little tear in my eye right there?
Now your lighting isn't very good. Could you, get a beam on that eye?
Yeah, just the glistening tear. I'm surprised it doesn't show up even given that.
I must have a crappy monitor.
Yeah.
There we are.
Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Sonia.
And Han said he's just pulling into the house, so he should be on with us in a minute too.
Okay, great.
All right, and I texted Melissa as well.
All right, great. We'll give him a couple minutes to get on.
I'll move over here. Maybe this will show my tears.
There's Hans right now.
More.
All right, so
Apologies.
that's all right. We're all here now. We can, we have a quorum. I think we can start. So I'd like to call us to order, and according to the agenda, there are no action items. So I'd like to get a motion for the approval of the minutes, and I'm sure all of you have read them.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Do we have any public comments, Karen?
Not that I have received, and I don't see anyone present at this moment to make a public comment.
All right, great, terrific. So the one thing that I did mention before you guys got on is that we are one member short, and they're going to do whatever is necessary to get the ball in motion. I think the board has to advertise it, and people have to fill out applications, but we need to have one more person. So basically, we can go right for program updates. So is that Steve? Is that you or Carrie?
Me. Carrie, can you allow me to share?
Yes, certainly. Okay, you should be able to.
All right. So let's. Are you seeing the spreadsheet?
Yes.
Yes.
Measure M report? Okay. So in the agenda, I had put that we would be reviewing the financials through August 31st. We've had a bit of a technical issue getting that report prepared. So what I'm going to do is review the financials in this form that you're used to from June 30th. And then I'll give you a quick update on what our expenditures have been since then. And then next time we'll have this full report, which will be up to date. So this is a sheet we've all seen before. You're gonna see a few things here which are like an oddly consistent number, right? So we've got 71,586 for these two projects, and you'll see that there are other numbers that are kind of spread out where kind of feel like, well, we're not really doing any work there. What we do at the end of every fiscal year is distribute our centralized expenses. So down here on line 25, you'll see that we had accrued $714,000 of centralized expenses. And then on June 30th, which is obviously the date of this report, or anyway, at the end of the fiscal year, we distribute those. So that number is why you see things where we've got some soft costs, but in the same reporting period, no hard costs reported. So that's just kind of a brief explanation. Those amounts are dollars that were spent throughout the year. Where we did see some significant expenditures, as you would expect, is the new high school building and the Malibu campus plan. Now remember, the Malibu campus plan is all phases of the campus plan. It's kind of our master plan for what will become Malibu Middle and High School, or Malibu Middle School and Malibu High School. And then the phase 1 project, as I believe you're all aware, is the new construction of the new high school. Now our hard costs, we don't have a lot of expenses here. There's one that stands out. I want to point out. It's rare that we would have a negative hard cost, because really it means you're getting money back, right? In this case, that's exactly what happened. On the EV project, which is the middle school, well, will be the middle school building, but the library administration building, we ended up ordering what was specified for the brand name is Salto locks, but it's an electronic lock system. And although we ordered what was specified, there were some changes and we needed to make some changes. And by the time we got those changes put into effect, we ended up with a fair amount of equipment that the restocking charge was, and plus shipping and everything, was going to be almost the entire amount. I mean, it wasn't quite, but I mean, it was a significant amount of what we'd expended. So we said, hey, we've got other projects coming. Let's hang on to those. And as we can incorporate that into other projects, we'll credit that back against this. So we've done that. We've been distributing these Salto units to other projects, and that will continue throughout the next probably couple of years. And now I'm going to see if I'm able to switch screens. I'm just going to stop sharing and share a new one. So again, those are expenditures through June 30th. Our expenditures through August 13th, I'm sorry, August 31st. Now I'm showing you this because it has value to some extent. It gives you some bottom line numbers, but it doesn't have the breakdown that we'd like. It certainly doesn't show, you know, expenditures to date. And so again, at the next meeting, we'll have that put into the right format. And what you're going to see here is we've spent about $5.1 million in the reporting period. Of that, 3.42, so that's the first line under Malibu High School, are hard costs. And that's because we're in construction on that project. And you'd expect, of course, that the bulk of our spending would be on the Malibu High School project. So we spent $3.42 million in construction costs and hard costs. That's to our contractor primarily. Our soft costs are $835. That's going to include our inspectors, our DSA permit fees, our construction management, and our designers. And then we have some other program soft costs, which in this case will include our internal staff time, right? Our department time. It also, in this case, would include our attorneys. And our attorneys on this have been heavily involved with the entitlements, which is one of the next things we're going to talk about. And it's been a real challenge moving the entitlements forward. So our legal fees on the entitlements are higher than we would anticipate on most projects, but so far about what we expected on this project. So sorry that that's a bit disjointed because of the two report format that I have, but we'll have that sorted by the next time we get together, and you'll see it in the form you're familiar with. And that's all I have on the financial reports.
So where are we on the entitlements, or are you about to tell us?
I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
We're not where we'd like to be. I mean, I can give you the short answer, but we're working towards that. So Lou, if it's okay with you, I think we can move forward on the project updates.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the next thing we have is our interim projects. The main interim project that you'd be able to see on campus is relocation of, I think we had 5 portables we were relocating from the Cabrillo campus to the existing high school, middle school campus. Those are for classroom use. That work is complete. We're still closing out the contract, but the actual work in the field is complete. Those rooms have been in use since the first day of school. We did have a couple of last minute, I don't want to say scares, but some concerns. The ramping that we had for some reason wasn't sufficient, and we weren't able to get the ramping we needed. So we had to have the contractor temporarily construct access to the classrooms. They were doing this, of course, the week before school started. We were able to use the rooms. It was probably less than optimal, but we did get them into use before school started. And then, of course, like 3 or 4 days later, we were able to get the actual ramping that we needed. So that's been installed. There were a few changes on that project. Some things came about, well, the ramping is a great example of one of the changes. But a few others, things like, we wanted to in order to increase safety and security, we decided to go ahead and put chain link fencing around the air conditioning units on each of these portable buildings. And a few other things like safety issues would be like a grounding rod that wasn't specified but needed to be installed. So we will see you won't, but Craig, for example, will see a change order this week for that project. But that's kind of the wrap up change order, and we should be good to go with that. And moving on to the big project, phase 1 of the Malibu campus plan is the high school. The project has been designed and submitted to DSA for review and approval. In fact, I think it was yesterday. Today's Wednesday, so perhaps Monday. Our architect sent us a copy of what they hope and consider to be the final back check comments. Now, when we go through DSA, and just as a reminder to everyone, DSA is our permitting agency, so we don't go through like building and safety for our construction permits. We go through the Division of State Architect. And that process is, as you can imagine, it's kind of an iterative process, right? So we'll submit a full design, and then they'll come back and they'll say, well, we've got problems with this. We want you to change that. You've got to provide backup for this thing over here. And our architects will scurry around and get all that done and submit it. And then DSA will come back either accepting those comments and changes or asking for more information, and oftentimes asking for a whole bunch of new stuff. So as we go through this is a month-long process going through DSA, but our architect at least believes that they've now submitted what should be the final set of back check comments. They have received some feedback, and there may be a few clarifications they have to make, but we don't anticipate those being too significant. So they're hoping to get out of DSA, I think they said mid-October, which would be pretty good. I mean, it's a pretty good clip to get through DSA. Now, it's not guaranteed. I mean, we still have, we're of course reliant on DSA meeting what we expect their timeline to be, but we are moving forward. Now, you'll notice that on the Cabrillo campus, if you happen to drive by, you'll see that we're already doing demolition. I think we talked last time, our plan was to come in and do as much of the abatement during the summer as we can, and then go straight into demolition. Now, our hope was to do all of the abatement and demolition during the summer. And we've been working with the city on a way to effect that, but we weren't able to get that through the city. We did have to do a separate standalone coastal development permit application for not for the abatement technically, because we don't need a permit for that, but for the demolition and some minor grading. That was approved, and that work has gone forward. We've been, I think now probably a month and a half since we started doing the abatement. They're still abating, I think it's 2 buildings. And therefore they haven't torn those. There's actually 3 buildings I think they haven't torn down yet, but we're well on the way. And we did get as much done as could be done during the limited amount of summer that we had left. But we're moving that forward as rapidly as we can. There are a couple steps left before we can get into full construction. So, I mean, for one thing, our contractor still needs to bid the work. So we would love to be able to have a fully designed, completely approved project, then put it out to bid, then go into construction. But the reality is that we've already lost so much time on this project. You know, we started work. Oh, did I say this? We had a separate permit for what we call increment 1, which was the demolition and minor grading. That also had to be approved by DSA. That, of course, is done. The contractor clearly did bid and get their pricing approved for that because they're under construction. But the remaining work still needs to be bid, and that's the bulk of the cost, of course, the new construction. In order to save time, the contractor is going to be bidding the work based on the most recent set of what was submitted to DSA. And again, we feel it's pretty close. We don't anticipate DSA coming in with any massive changes or, you know, throwing out sections of the design. So there's limited risk in that, but it is possible that something that is bid gets changed and in the permitting process. And then when that happens, we of course identify those with the contractor and we get revised pricing from the contractor. Now it's possible that it would go down, but this won't surprise you. Most of the time when DSA makes a change, it's a more expensive solution than what we had proposed in the first place. So in most cases when this has happened, we've had to have a change order to, or an amendment, I guess, to the contract to increase to cover the cost of the change. These changes aren't typically major, but whatever they end up being is, of course, what we're going to have to pay for. The flip side of this is by bidding this now with the level of documents that we have, we're able to move into construction as soon as it's permissible. And by permissible, I mean when we have the entitlements. We have our permits, not just from DSA, but in this case also from the city, the coastal development permit. Carrie, anything else I need to mention on the high school project itself that is on your mind?
No, I think it's all moving forward. You know, and the demo, we'll get to it in a moment about story poles, but the demo is moving along. Most of the hazardous materials have been abated from the building materials and have been hauled away and taken away. I think we're just finishing the one last building, which I don't think we have too much concern about, but so the hazardous materials have been picked up and moved.
And we, as we've talked about in the past, we will be testing the slabs and in certain cases, the soil below the slabs for PCBs. I think they just took slab samples for building C this week. Maybe it was the end of last week. No, it was this week. And we should get those results shortly. And that tells us how we dispose of the concrete in that slab. And then we'll test the soil once we get the concrete out of the way and determine how deep we need to go, if at all, to get the soil to a non-detectable level of PCBs. In other words, if we can detect PCBs, the district's commitment has been, we're going to remove it where we can detect them. But until we can, you know, uncover the soil below the slab, we can't know whether or how much soil we're going to have to remove. Okay, so now we'll move on to the big one. And Carrie and I'll probably go back and forth on this a little bit. That's the entitlements.
Before we get off this subject, I have just one question. The DSA changes that they make, are they going to ultimately affect these entitlements? Do we have to go back to the Planning Commission for anything, or are they not those kinds of changes?
That's a great question, and they're not those kinds of changes. They might be things like, you know, a structural detail, or, you know, a bigger footing or something like that. But no, they wouldn't be things that would change the structure of meaning the mass, for example, of the building. They would not be things that would trigger us to go back for another CDP.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Thank you for the question. Okay, so moving on to entitlements, just as a brief reminder, there's really kind of two parts to our entitlements issue here. The first is the specific plan. And the reason we have that is because city codes, the city of Malibu in particular, but a lot of city codes aren't really designed for building a school, right? They might be designed for building a mansion or for building an apartment complex or a shopping center. But a lot of the things that impact us or that we need don't fit within those boxes. So when we talked with the city years ago, we initially said, you know, we're going to need some relief from city code, and you know, we're going to need a variance for height of the building or whatever. And they said, you know, what we can do is instead of that, and instead of creating an institutional zoning code, what we can do is a specific plan. So that would be the code that would, or the zoning code, I guess, that would apply only to your specific site and only for the uses that you have at that site. So we've moved forward with that. Now, once the specific plan is approved, then we can get our coastal development permit approved. And the permit itself, you know, when they're looking at a permit application, one of the things, of course, that planning and everybody does is they look and they say, well, does this meet our code? And right now, ours would not. And if it did, we wouldn't be worried about the specific plan. But their analysis then is, does the application for the CDP meet the specific plan? And that operates as our code. Now, the city, because of its standing with the Coastal Commission, the city actually, I guess, stands in place of the Coastal Commission. I think that's the LIP, Carrie, is that right? The Local Implementation Plan?
Right.
LCP,
LCP, Local Coastal Plan?
Local Coastal Plan.
Nailed it. So that will, there's multiple steps here, right? So we will be getting the specific plan approved by the city. Now, in fairness, that is partially done. That, I think first time we went was to the Planning Commission in June? May?
July.
I think that was the city in July.
June,
Anyway,
yeah, it's
whatever.
June.
Okay, I think in June. Then we went to the city in July, and the city has to have 2 readings. So they had their first reading, and then there were a couple of very minor clerical errors that were corrected in the specific plan, and the city determined that it was not appropriate to go to a second reading because of those changes, and therefore we needed to have a first reading. So we did that in either late July or early August. And then, yeah, it was in early August. And then the second reading, there was no second meeting in August. So the second reading was scheduled to be last Monday, I think. And
Yeah.
the city had a power outage, and the city council meeting was canceled. So we've gotten bumped to the next city council meeting. So we're really hopeful. I mean, this is like a never-ending saga. But we're really hopeful that we'll get our second reading accomplished and completed at the next city council meeting. It is agendized. It's been properly noticed. We're on track for this. But our plan is to get it approved at the next city council meeting. As soon as we can after that, our goal is to get the Coastal Commission to hear the application for the coastal development permit. And remember, that's the separate thing from the specific plan. So the city technically can't issue the coastal development permit until the Coastal Commission has approved the specific plan or accepted the specific plan. So as soon as we get the specific plan approved by City Council, the city will forward that to the Coastal Commission, and ideally they will hear it in short order and accept it, and we'll be good to go and ready to go forward with our coastal development permit application. What we've asked the city to do and what they've tentatively agreed to is we'll take the coastal development permit application to the Coastal Commission for review and get them to approve it conditionally. So in other words, it would be approved by the city, but it can't take effect until after Coastal accepts the specific plan. So that's our goal now. And there are some there are some requirements that we need to meet for the CDP application.
Oh, just to say on
one
that
of-
specific, just to say on the specific plan. So our encouragement to the city is that as soon as the council approves it, hopefully on the upcoming meeting, that they really expedite it going to coastal. We have no idea how long it'll take in coastal. As soon as it gets there, we'll use our insiders to try to find out and encourage it. If they move it right along and get it, on one of their November or December meeting, we might be okay in a lot of ways. But if they take 3, 6, 9 months to look at it, we're going to have a problem.
And each of those is a bigger problem than the other.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carrie. So again, our coastal development permit application has a couple of requirements. We've submitted the application, and again, we think we have responded to all of the city's comments. We haven't yet gotten, it's been a while since we've heard any response. So we're pushing to get a response. I say that, I should caveat that. I saw an email pop up from Richard Malika during this meeting, but I've been focused here and I haven't read it yet. So I may have a response. Is it called Schrodinger's cat?
Yes.
It's either good or bad. So the other requirement that we definitely have, though, is we need to put up story poles. The city requirement is that story poles be up, I believe, for 30 days prior to the Coastal Commission hearing.
The city planning hearing.
Planning Commission meeting. It's hard when two things are named commission. Thank you. The Planning Commission meeting. Our goal right now is to get this on the November 7th Planning Commission, which means that we would need to have our story poles up, I believe, by the 7th of October. We're on track to do that if we can get the story pole plan approved by the city. The city's had it for a bit of time, and that was the reason I reached out to Richard today, was to try to get a response on that. If we can get that approved this week, we can get the story poles up starting next week and be ready for October 7th to start that 30-day clock, which would get us to the November 7th date for the Coastal Commission, Planning Commission meeting. And that would be everything we can do to be on track. As Carrie said, there's a big variable here, which is when the Coastal Commission decides to take it. We being the city and school district collectively don't have a ton of influence over the Coastal Commission. There's an independent state commission that acts on their own timeline. But certainly we'd like to have it submitted as quickly as we can so we can at least start that clock. And I think that's where we are. Carrie, what did I
So now then we go to the CDP. So once we get the story polls up, we have 30 days, we want to get there. So we do really want to encourage the Planning Commission to go ahead and hear the CDP as expeditiously as possible. If we, hit the jackpot at Coastal Commission, we could get on their November meeting and we could be ready to start construction by the end of Thanksgiving, by Thanksgiving or 1st of December, which will help us get back a little bit on track. We still know we're going to miss the August 24 opening. We're still holding out with some hope that the January 25 opening is possibly in reach if we hit all the right marks. Otherwise, we'll be pushed to a August of 25 opening. Yes, Hans.
Well, I observed the Coastal Commission taking 1 to 2 years, even on urgent civic improvements, things like bridges in San Diego and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They routinely say we don't have enough staff. They take a vote and they're allowed to delay it for either 1 or 2 years. What's plan B? If there's a 1 to 2 year Coastal Commission delay, what's your plan?
If there's a 1 to 2 year coastal delay, we will not be able to move forward on anything as far as this project. And we will not have, I suspect we will not have funding to build the project that we've designed. We have a couple of years before our permit with the DSA expires. So, you know, we can wait just as we did with the AB building, but we really hope not to. So we're hoping that we can move along.
Well, one thing to keep in mind is we're not asking the Coastal Commission to approve a project. They're not reviewing the project. They're reviewing the minor changes that we had to the city code. So it's a lesser scope, Hans, I think, than something like a bridge, for example. Even though I agree with you, there are some projects like that that are super high priority. They're very critical for life safety, and still, Coastal takes its time. But this is a little bit less of an ask for them. You know, we're really saying, hey, we've got a few changes here to our existing city code, and so I mean, again, I am saying this as someone who's sounding optimistic, but you know, hopefully it won't be too much time for them to undertake that review, because it's not as, they don't have to review, you know, I mean, they have the EIR attached to it, but it isn't like the environmental impacts you would find from some of the projects that they do have to review.
I wish I could share your optimism, gentlemen, but I've seen them delay the Trancas Creek Bridge. They're delaying the Malibu hotel. The Coastal Commission wants hotels in Malibu, and there's a guy in Malibu who has plans to build one, and he can't even get a date right now for when his will be considered by the staff. The coastal staff is so overworked and understaffed, and has traditionally been. I sure hope you're right, guys. I'm you know, I hope the angels are on your side, but that's,
I mean,
it is what it
that
is.
Yeah, our biggest risk is just being hung up and delayed.
All right, so let's talk about that just for a minute, and you know, the kind of plan B that Hans is talking about. You know, there is a point where we're going to run out of money, and we're running out of time as things. This project is taking obviously much longer than we intended it to when we first started. I mean, it took us a couple of years to get one of these together. So I know how complicated it is for the city of Malibu to do something. I know how complicated it is for the Coastal Commission to do something. But what I'd like to know from you guys as early as possible is when you begin to see some real issue coming up that, you know, is going to really mortally affect this project. And that's what we're concerned about. And, you know, it's not so much time, but, you know, time and money put together. We need to know from your vantage point. And I know you don't have a lot of experience with the Coastal Commission, but, you know, the Coastal Commission has built schools up and down the coast for the last, you know, since it was in the 70s. So I think it fits into a different kind of category. I don't know. And I'm as optimistic as you are, but I'm also as pessimistic as Hans is. And I just want us to know, you know, in advance with as much notice as possible when it looks like we're running into trouble, and find out, you know, whatever it is that we can do about it. Yeah.
Sure thing. We'll definitely communicate that with you as we go forward. Just the status generally, and certainly if there's a problem.
The commission is not immune to pressure from politicians. If the governor's office calls the Coastal Commission and says, this is urgent, it gets moved to the top of the stack. And Malibu has absolutely no swing on that at all. In fact, Malibu has a negative effect on the commission. But,
Yeah,
you know, state senators, Sheila Kuehl, who's about to leave office, if she's not indicted, I hope, you know, you guys are going to have to act administratively with the commission staff to move this to the top of the stack.
Okay. How about the lieutenant governor? Will that help? I mean, is that
think
someone
so.
of influence?
You guys may need to do ex parte communications with coastal commissioners, and have them go. Because this is an extraordinary problem with the current inflation rates, the fact that COVID delayed this, the fact that the city permitting delayed this because the city was jumping through hoops to comply with the LCP. This is do or die, and we all know that, and that needs to be conveyed to above the first level of bureaucrats who are going to be receiving this when it comes in. It needs to go to the administrative staff to let them know how urgent this is.
Certainly we'll do that. Thank you, Hans. So before we move on, are there questions about, I mean, I think Hans, you've obviously raised some good questions and some.
And by the way, we've seen
Deep-
that
deep
happen. You know, when Del Mar wanted to move their railroad tracks so they didn't fall into the ocean, there was a whole delegation of people from San Diego who told the Coastal Commission Del Mar's railroad tracks have to be fixed. And it was obvious that pressure can be applied successfully. Good
I
luck.
appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Before we move on to the next topic, are there more questions about the entitlements, either the specific plan or the coastal development permit?
Anyone? I don't see any.
Okay, so then I think we may be able to move forward to safety and security upgrades. Carrie, do you want to lead on this?
Sure. So the big thing that we've been working with is the changeover of the bell clock and PA systems. So we've pretty much finished or about to have finished at Malibu Elementary and Webster. So, you know, in some ways these seem a little mundane. They're little clocks on the wall, you know, digital clocks, and they have announcements. You can hear announcements, but also they have a scrolling LED. So in terms of lockdown or anything, not only can we communicate to everyone, but also we can communicate digitally if we need to express any information. So, you know, our PA system had become antiquated and no longer worked. So that's being done. We are looking to do a similar project at Malibu High School, and there are a couple of areas and buildings that are not currently being connected by the PA system. So we're going to get onto that, and I think it'll get done in starting, I think we're lined up in January. There's a slowness of getting those parts, but I think we'll be able to get it started in January. We were able to add a camera buzz-ins at the other schools. So all three schools in Malibu have the camera buzz-ins. And while this does not specifically connect to this committee, just to say, we have been working with the city and the city council to do a full safety and security review. And we interviewed a potential consultant to do that this week. And that will be coming before the council to approve at, I think, either at the next meeting or very soon after, maybe the October meeting, I think is when they said to get it. And we'll start that review of all of the campuses for safety and security purposes. I don't know, Paul, if you want to add anything to that since you're on that committee. But
Well, I'm looking forward to it coming so that I can tell people, yeah, let's do this, let's do it now.
Yeah.
And as far as coastal goes, we actually had a fairly productive meeting with Jack Ainsworth and Steve Hudson last week about the fire rebuilds. So at least that channel is open. And I'm sure California Strategies would be glad to lean on Governor Newsom at the appropriate time. And, you know, it makes too much sense to go forward with this. There's no reason for them to hold off.
Yeah.
So Paul, maybe once it gets through council and it's been submitted to the commission, perhaps I can touch base with you and we can kind of strategize on that.
That'd be great. That would be great.
Thank you very much. Okay, so unless there's any questions about safety and security, Lou, maybe we move on to the next item.
Yes, the next is the Malibu Campus Plan Future Phases with the Performing Arts Center.
Right, so this was added at the request of the committee. There's not actually a lot to update here other than to confirm that the Santa Monica College bond language does include some language saying that they would, help fund. I think those are the words they use. Help fund a performing arts center at maybe not even say at Malibu High School, but for educational and community use in Malibu. And there's a limited amount of information I have on this because I think there were, Paul, I don't know that you were one of these two, but I think there are two city council members who were kind of negotiating with I think it may have been Bruce and Mikey that were negotiating
No,
with the
it's
college on.
Bruce and Paul.
Oh, let's Paul. I'm sorry.
So
Well,
you're not breaking.
hey, Craig, do you know what help fund means, Craig?
Well, let's put it this way. I oppose SMS. I'm against the Santa Monica College bond. They take $125 million of money out of Malibu, and they've offered us maybe kind of sort of $20 million after a year of conversation that they needed to make a meaningful contribution to us, and that the Performing Arts Center was a terrific way for them, for the residents of Malibu and for Malibu High School to move forward together. And that simply wasn't a priority for them. They believe that, I assume they believe, with 85% of their voters in Santa Monica and 70% of them voting more or less as a block, that they don't need Malibu's votes to pass it. So I think we're going to have to at least demonstrate to them that Malibu's no votes can make it harder, if not impossible, for them to move forward in this and in the future. So I am very much opposed to the SMS bond. And I think it's insulting what they've done.
Okay.
That's new
Well,
information. I wasn't aware that they had come up with a number yet. So
Well, when they came up with the number, they were talking about the neighborhood of and things like that. And it was explained to them that that was not a realistic contribution towards what we were looking for. And I mean, the city of Malibu can pass a bond issue too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And for the Malibu High School Performing Arts Center, we could do it ourselves and keep 100% of our bond money. So they sort of annoyingly said, well, $20 million is more than nothing, but paying $125 million of Malibu's residents' money to get $20 million tip from Santa Monica College is one of the reasons why I characterize this as insulting. We can pass our own bond and build our own performing arts center where 100% of the funds are spent here. So it's highly problematic from my point of view. And they had absolutely every opportunity to do it differently. And I'm counting in my head, but I am pretty sure that in addition to me saying no to the SMS bond, every single sitting city council member has also said that they are a no on the Santa Monica bond. So along with electing Stacey Rouse and her 3 running mates, this will be something that I will be communicating very clearly to the Malibu voters on actually fairly soon.
Okay, so in terms of the Performing Arts Center, that's pretty much all we have on it at the moment. And ultimately, it may just become a Malibu Performing Arts Center.
Yeah, the idea that we might jump the queue and have a fully paid for by SMC ability to move forward on the Performing Arts Center phase of the plan, that's completely off the table. They're very clearly not going to do that. That number was more like $80 million, which, let the record show, is still considerably less than $125 million. And that's not going to happen. So the Performing Arts Center, as a result of this, whether they pass their bond or not, is going to be folded back into the overall plan and will come at whatever speed phases 2, 3, and 4 show up at. At the moment, getting phase 1 done would be a huge step in the right direction, but hopefully lessons learned from that and we can move quickly to complete the other 3 phases.
thank you. That
Okay.
helps a lot.
Do we have it?
And just one more point on that, Lou, and I
Sure,
think Craig
yeah.
kind of hit on this. The reason that this is actually agendized is because the Performing Arts Center is not phase 2 of the Malibu campus plan. So, what Craig was kind of referencing is and this helps us because we very shortly need to go out for the architect for phase 2, whatever that is. We've kind of been in a little bit of a holding pattern here in our department because, you know, if we're going to hire an architect to design, well, let me put it differently. Clearly, it'd be a different architect to design the theater than any other part of the campus. But importantly, we need to know what we're asking them to design before we ask them for proposals. So, so we've been paused on that. I mean, we're at the point where we're about ready to move forward, and I think this may be, and Carrie, you and I can talk later this week or next.
Yeah.
But you know, this may give us the guidance we need to say, okay, let's go back to what phase 2 was supposed to be and move forward with that.
And
Right.
what does your local committee say, that the facilities committee say phase 2 should be?
Well,
The master plan, go ahead.
yeah, our master plan had us completing the middle school, which is a new multi-purpose room and food services area. And also we were probably going to put the new pool in at the same time. And then the third phase would be whatever we're doing with either a new gym or building onto the existing new gym, as we call it, to complete those part of the athletic forms. And then the fourth phase would be the Performing Arts Center. That's what's currently in the plan. Though we certainly can, a little bit of it's movable. I mean, you know, depending on priorities, we can adjust some of those things in different orders, but that's what's in the plan.
So let's say Malibu votes against this insult, and even if the college district told me, even with 70% of Malibu voters voting no, they think it'll pass. So let's say it passes, even though it's an insult and we all oppose it. Will that $20 million still be on the table for a contribution for a performing arts center?
I believe that it will be, and if anybody wants to, you know, I certainly appreciate the what you all are saying about the money and it staying in Malibu and all of that question. But if there's $20 million, I don't think the people in Malibu would, at least I suspect, and I don't want to jump this, that you'd say for us to then refuse it if it's offered.
I think Hans's question is, with the college, if Malibu votes 70% no, still give us even $20 million. And my expectation is that they would give us approximately whatever they were going to give us before, which is something on the order of $20 million. And what they said to me, and I think to Paul as well, is that their plan would be to hold that money, and at such a time as we were ready to move forward on the project that they're willing to partner with, at that point, they could begin to fold that money into that plan. So they will basically, the district has a lot of experience with SMC sort of topping up a program, whether it's JAMS Performing Arts Center or a couple of other places. So I think their default would be to do that. But I don't think, out of spite, they don't fund Malibu at all. I think that would be super poor judgment for the long run of the relationship between the two communities. So I think what they will do is cruise past Malibu's votes and do exactly what they were planning on doing with or without our support. That would be my guess. Obviously, that's up to them.
Okay, so Malibu doesn't have funding for part 2 of this now anyway. This $20 million might be there, and it may not be $20 million, it may be 18, right? So are we in a position to build a performing arts center for $18 million? It sounds like it's not nearly enough.
Not nearly enough.
Gotcha.
So basically it'll go in the queue when the Performing Arts Center does come up. We would expect that they would contribute whatever they are going to contribute into phase 3, phase 4, whatever. I think it's phase 3, right? It's 4. So at that point.
Now, this is a November election bond issue, is that correct? This coming November?
That's right.
It's on the
All right,
general election.
So the next time we meet, we'll have a better idea of where we are with that.
Mhm.
All right. And now I saw Sonia's hand was up, but it looks like she probably had to drop off.
Oh, okay.
Does anyone else have any other questions, or shall we talk about our next meeting? So you have it penciled in for December 7th?
Yes, as you might remember, we sort of, there was a little change in protocol as far as having you review the audits with the auditor before it goes to the board, and it now needs to go to the board in December. So our next meeting is scheduled for December 7th, primarily for you to do the audit review in preparation before the board meeting.
All right.
I think
Will we
might
get
make
any
sense.
information or any kind of, get paperwork before we actually?
Oh,
have the
yeah,
meeting?
we'll get you the audit prior to the meeting, so you have time to review it.
Okay. That date
Would we
will
want-
work for me. How about everybody else?
Looks good.
Melissa says, okay.
It's in my book now.
Okay, Paul, all right, so
Then
Jarrell?
It's good. Yeah, it's in my calendar.
It's good. Okay. All right, so let's, put that in more permanent ink.
Okay.
Do
But,
we want to
yeah,
talk about the following meeting, which would be in spring? And my suggestion would be that we would do that on campus. And, assuming that we're through Coastal, I'd like to be able to tour you around the construction site, whatever state it's in. I mean, at that point, it won't be a lot to see other than maybe holes in the ground, but I think it might be worthwhile to walk the campus, the new high school campus, in spring, if that works with you.
I think that's a great idea. If we could do it, that's perfect.
I like construction sites.
Me too. Do we want to pick a tentative date, Lou, or are we looking too far out to say that?
I would, let's wait till we get to after December, see where we're at. Because we may have a better idea where we are with the entitlements or whether we're actually going to be able to see something in the spring or not.
Yeah, that's a good point. We might be looking at a third lot.
Or we could be doing exactly what we'd like to be doing. So, between now and then, I can tell you Cal Strategies is a very influential organization. That's,
Okay. We'll definitely want to take your advice and frankly offer help on that. That'd be wonderful.
Okay.
all right, terrific. So do we have anything else? Any other business we have? Well, with certainly a pleasure to see you all again. So I'd like to move and get someone do a motion for adjournment, please.
I'll motion to adjourn.
A second.
I will second that.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Lou. You ran a great meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie and Steve.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Bye, guys.
guys.
Thanks, everybody.